Welcome back. We have covered some important foundational concepts in the previous two sessions. Those of you who are new to UPSC Civil Services preparation might be wondering why a polity lecture is discussing so much history, philosophy, other countries, and so on. But all of general studies is interrelated. For example, what we discussed regarding the philosophers in the first session can be used quite effectively in your ethics paper. For example, the idea of Rajrishi or philosopher king given by Chanakya and Plato can make an ethics answer much more complete and powerful. You can say, for instance, that an administrator or politician should be like a Rajrishi who cares for the welfare of citizens and does not try to take away public money through corrupt means. Similarly, a lot of the information on other countries that we have discussed in previous sessions and are going to discuss in this session can be used in international relations or IR and also in world history. For example, you can write about South Africa's apartheid past and its struggle since then to maintain balance between whites and blacks in a question on South Africa or even a question on the strengths and weaknesses of BRICS countries. All of general studies is definitely interconnected, but in addition, if you have humanities optionals like public administration, political science, sociology or psychology, you can use a lot of examples from these sessions. And of course, they will also greatly enrich your essays. Now let us continue our discussion on democratic republics. Let us see how the idea of the modern republic has evolved. The fundamental idea, as we have already seen, is res publica, or governance as a public matter done on behalf of the people. Thus, those who govern the nation are serving the common people and can be called public servants. But how do we ensure that those who govern are actually serving the public? They might be secretly serving only a few special citizens or just their own institution at the cost of the public. For example, if one section of public servants makes taxation laws, they may make a law that makes only themselves exempt from paying taxes while everyone else still has to pay. This is a simple example, but various sections of public servants can try to subvert the system for their own benefit in various complicated ways. Thus, we need a system of checks and balances. The republic needs to make sure that no section of those who are governing can become too powerful and dominate the public or other institutions. The way most modern republics implement checks and balances is through separation of powers. This means that public servants are divided into three major organs of governance that balance and keep a check on each other. These organs of government are the legislature that makes laws, the executive that implements laws, and the judiciary that ensures that the implementation is being done correctly. Through this, we make sure that no one organ can become too powerful and create tyranny. If this system is not maintained in its true spirit, the nation starts to fail. You can see in many countries that institutions weaken if one group or individual gains too much power. For example, in some countries, including some of our neighbors, the army, which is a part of the executive, is too powerful and the legislature and judiciary are powerless against it, as is the rest of the executive. And eventually this force becomes parasitic and turns on the government itself. We also mentioned Julius Caesar and Rome in the previous session. Thus, it is critical to have mutually strong institutions that check and balance each other. Now let us look at the evolution of democracy. As we discussed in the previous session, democracy originally meant direct democracy, where all members of the public would meet and take decisions on governance. After this came the idea of indirect democracy, where the entire population does not take part in governance directly, but it is done through a small number of representatives. So it is also called representative democracy. Notice how we are starting to approach the idea of the republic, a collective leadership that is taking decisions on everyone's behalf. However, there are no written codes of law in a pure democracy, no constitution that defines everyone's rights and responsibilities. Also, to qualify as a democracy, these representatives must come from the general public and not from any hereditary monarchy or nobility or any special set of people. But being a democracy, things here are driven by human impulses and emotion, because there are no written codes of law. On the same issue, these representatives may take one decision on one day and an opposite decision on another day. And this system has a risk of majoritarianism, or might is right, since the majority would have more democratic representatives as well. There is no way to check their behavior. In the early days of representative democracies, we had elite electorates. This means that the number of citizens who could take part in the democratic process and vote for their representatives was a small proportion of the overall population. Generally, they had to be already powerful and wealthy. For example, only white male landowners were allowed to vote in the early days of the United States, even after it had won freedom from Britain. Even in the ancient direct democracies, not everyone was allowed to take part in governance discussions. Do you remember the first session where we talked of ancient Greece and how only free adult males could take part in discussions on how to govern the city or polis? Free adult male means someone who is not just an adult and a male, but also free, meaning not a slave. Slaves were common in the ancient world and formed a large proportion of the population. Women were also not allowed to participate in democracy, even women from the upper classes. The idea that all adults, male or female, rich or poor, should take part in the democratic process is called universal suffrage and has become a reality only after a long struggle. For example, the United States and the United Kingdom gave women the right to vote only in the 1920s. The important role played by women in the First World War, which lasted from 1914 to 1918, helped turn public opinion in their favor. While the men went off to fight, it were the women who came out of homes to work in factories for the first time and made a massive contribution to the war effort. A similar thing happened in India, but at a slower rate, as India had been a very traditional society. It was during the Swadeshi and boycott movement after the partition of Bengal in 1905 that some women started to come out of their homes for the first time to take part in local protests. But it took an entire generation for these revolutionary seeds to grow. By the 1930s, when the Salt March and civil disobedience movement came, women had become very active participants in the freedom struggle. They often faced lathi charges and firing and also went to jail. When India's constitution came into force in 1950 and we became a republic, we chose to go with universal suffrage from the very beginning. All adult Indians, irrespective of gender, social class, or economic status, could vote. It was an optimistic step, but the freedom struggle, with millions of people participating in it, gave the makers of the Constitution the confidence that Indians were responsible citizens and ready for universal suffrage. Men and women, young and old, rich and poor, everyone participated in this battle to free their motherland and create a new nation. Giving everyone the right to vote is inherently risky because it can lead to tensions between the people who till now didn't have power and the previously powerful elite. In the entire world, there are very few countries, for example India and Sri Lanka, that adopted universal suffrage directly after their independence and have remained functioning democratic republics in that entire time with no instances of military coups, dictatorships, or national breakup. Despite all the challenges, despite all the diversity, we have grown closer together as Indians and become stronger as a nation. Let us pause this polity session here. We have discussed most of the fundamental concepts now. In the upcoming session, we will continue with the discussion of the Republic, but we'll also start looking at the specific provisions of the Indian Constitution that make us a democratic republic. See you again soon.